You're live on PM Express tonight. Tonight, we continue our campaign on disbanding party militias now, confronting party militias, pulling from the brink. We had a time in our political history, a crucial time, when the political parties have been forced to comply with the wishes of the people. Both parties say they will sit and talk to find a lasting solution to the problem of the political militias. A lot has happened in the last 1 month since the Yawaso West Wuogon by-election violence, which many say is a blessing in disguise. Tonight, we will look at where we are in this campaign, but as the campaign grows, more and more influential voices are joining in. One of those voices is that of Duncan-Williams. And Archbishop Duncan-Williams has joined the campaign as far as this matter is concerned. And tonight, he will be sharing his thoughts on this all-important issue when it comes to party militias. Archbishop Duncan-Williams has been speaking quite honestly about the problem that we face with these militia groups. And we'll be picking his thoughts shortly. After we've heard from him, we put together a civil society voice and, of course, a legal brain, but from the stock of the NDC, who are just coming on the back of what has happened tonight with his own national chairman. I'm talking about the NDC coming from the CID headquarters. As we delve into this party militia challenge, we'll start tonight by watching what we heard from Archbishop Duncan-Williams on this very important national discussion which is gathering momentum. Listen to him, after which our discussion will continue.
As we speak right now, there's some sort of vigilante issues going on and all the rest. My concern is about, we seem to be a Christian nation. When you hear these reports and all the rest and blah, blah, is it the failure of Christianity? That these are the same people who go to church, they are the same people who tithe. When they move from the church, the attitude is different. Fighting among themselves, getting guns, getting cutlasses and all the rest. Is the Christian community failing to influence our flock when it comes to these things?
I wouldn't say that. And then number two, how do you prove that these people go to church? And what church do they go to? We have different churches in this country. We have different churches in this country. So I think we have to be very careful where everything we say Christian is the fault of the Christian, is the fault of the church. The church has failed. The people go to church, and why is people this? Why are people that? You know, it's all petty. You know, the church has done a lot for this country, and we can do better. And what we need to do is to shine the light. We need the weakness of darkness is the appearance of light. So we need more light, more education, and more light. And when light comes, it expels darkness. And some of the things that happen, it's all the work of darkness. It's ignorance. Because if people have light, there are some things they will not do. So we just need to have more churches, more light. And the more we spread the light and people get to have light and get to see the light, definitely there are some things that people will not do.
What is the advice of the Christian community, and even from you, in trying to deal with these problems that are going on? Not mentioning any names, but the fact that there's a call that we should move on these things and let's have peace, total peace within that space.
I don't think people really are ready for an answer to the question you've asked me. Because I'm an African and I travel all over the continent. And what is happening here is not new to the continent. Just look at what's going on in Nigeria and what's been going on in Nigeria for some time now, and the state that nation finds itself in, and many other African countries. I think that the politics and the party politics of our country must be revisited, because the level of division and hatred and anger and bitterness in our countries, not just Ghana, in Africa, it's scaring and worrying. It's like hatred you just can't understand, and you are compelled to to take a stand. You either belong to party B or party A. You can't be neutral, and you are compelled. And we are dividing families. We are dividing husband and wives. We are dividing siblings. My church is divided. Communities are divided. The nation is divided. And if we don't revisit the way we're running our politics as a country, not just Ghana, but Africa here, to do something to save the nation and to stop the bleeding, because our nations are bleeding. Most African countries are bleeding. It's hemorrhaging. And it all has to do with the way our political parties is structured. And if something is not done, in a few years from now, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. If you look at how Norway structured their governance after the Second World War, they had a national coalition, brought people from all the political parties, from labor, stakeholders in the community, business and religious leaders, and they formed a national coalition with a national agenda. And they ran it for 40 years. They are out of the hole, out of poverty. Today, they stand tall, all of Europe. We need, eventually, to have a national coalition in Africa and make sure that every political party is represented, labor is represented, religious community is represented, our traditional rulers are involved, and let's have a national agenda that we all work towards for a period of 20 or to 25 years. No every 4 years election. Let's work on the national agenda. It will unite us. It will stop this hatred. It will stop this vindictiveness. It will stop this bitterness. It will stop this thing. You wait till I come. I will show you. You showed me. You showed my people. Wait. When we also come, we will show you. It's killing us. There is no continuity. The foreign community don't trust us anymore, because anything you establish with one government after 4 to 8 years, you have to now make your way to go and
start the whole process again.
You have to renegotiate, start all over. There is a problem in the continent, and something is going wrong.
Do you think that having the national agenda could be the solution to, because at the end of the day, I mean, in political science club, they'll tell us that opposition parties or political parties' aim is to capture power. Do you think that having that agenda could deal with these vigilante issues that are going on?
Yeah, having a national agenda and then having a national coalition, because no one political party has the remedy or the prescription to our problems. We need to have everybody come together. Let's work together. Let's get the private sector, the business community. Let's even get the army to be represented. Let's get our traditional rulers, the religious rulers, labor, the youth. Let's get everybody on board and bind ourselves with a national agenda. 20, 25 years, we are going to work this national agenda. When you go to a place like America, it doesn't matter who your president and your party is, because their national agenda has been institutionalized. You can't fool there. I mean, look at what they are doing to Trump. They will deal with you. The systems are solid, so you can't mess with it. We are young in democracy. Our systems and our structures are weak. And if we don't do something and put the nation first and not our politics, because our politics is becoming very deadly now. I mean, it's like you are in office. I'm in opposition. My assignment, stand up, let me show you something. My assignment is to hold this leg. Try and go. Try and move. I'm holding your leg. Try and move. I won't let you go. You won't accomplish anything because I'm holding your leg. When I finish with you and you are out and I come, you also hold my leg.
Okay.
Hold my leg.
Okay, I have.
You also hold my leg.
Yeah, Papa, I have.
So I'm trying to move.
No.
I can't move because you are holding my leg. That's what we are doing to one another. So the nation is not going anywhere. We are not accomplishing anything Because when I get into a position, my assignment is to hold your leg.
That's not good, and that's what the...
But that is what is killing our continent.
If we get that agenda, we'll get over this.
We have to get the agenda, but the agenda must be formulated by a coalition of people from the different parties. You can't leave that agenda to one party. All the parties must come together. We must all agree. How do we want this nation to become? What kind of a future do we want for our children and our grandchildren? Let's put it all together. We all sign, we are all bound, and we say that, okay, all the parties, we form a coalition. We are all working together. And so maybe leadership every 5 years, this party will produce a president for 5 years. Then another party produces for 5 years, 25 years. We will just work it that way, and we are working together and pushing the national agenda. So I don't have to pull your leg, and you don't have to pull my leg. So there is nothing like, I'm hurt. You have offended me. So just wait. I will do everything to sabotage you. And when I come into office, I will show you where power lies. Then you also say, okay, come show me. You will also, your day will also go. And when I come, and this thing is dividing us to a point, you know, I'm watching something. My father was CPP, and my dad used to talk to me about my team and all that. I've been watching CPP, UP, now MPP. I'm watching something. It looks like the same demons that for the fathers are fighting the sons. And if we are not careful in this generation, we are transferring that bitterness and transferring that hatred to our kids and to our kids' kids. And so those who don't like me, for whatever reason, they tell their kids, watch this guy and watch his party. And I now also tell my children, don't trust this guy and watch them. So we are suspicious of each other.
I mean, we know these things. And even, and I bring the argument about Christians taking the leadership role and all the rest. But we know all these things, but it appears committing ourselves to it is the problem. Are we ready for it?
We will be ready. Events will happen. We are getting close. And I'm predicting, by divine authority, after 2020 going, if things don't change, there will be an uprising, a civil uprising on the continent of Africa. Mark it down. You see the Arab uprising, there is a wind coming to Africa and to West Africa. It's coming. And if something is not done, especially the youth, look at our car wash areas. You see 10 youths who have graduated from university. They don't have a job. They are washing cars. And sometimes 10 of them will wash one car. And the whole day, all they will do is to wash 2 cars. And they are sitting down there, they have no job, no hopes. That is dangerous. Because a time will come when they can't take it anymore. They will be uncontrollable. And at that time, the danger here, which is more dangerous than the army, is this. When you are dealing with people who have nothing to lose, it's very dangerous. When you are dealing with somebody who doesn't have a wife, he doesn't have kids, he doesn't have a bicycle, he doesn't have anything. He's sleeping in a kiosk opposite a very wealthy community. And he sees all these wealthy people. Some of their children are their friends. They went to school together. Some of them didn't have much. They went into politics, and suddenly they are living this beautiful life they can't have. And they see this happening every 4 to 8 years, every 4 to 8 years. A day will come when they will be tired and can't take it anymore. And they will not mind dying.
But has this influenced your getting back to your first love? My auntie tells me those days in universities when we're all over the country, coming over to preach to them, the campaign, and focusing back again on the youth. Because we've seen you getting back, and she always says something about that is your first love.
Yeah, I'm going back to it.
This has influenced that?
I'm going back to it because they are the future leaders of tomorrow. We need to give them hope. Without these young men and women out there, there's no future. We don't have a future. It doesn't matter how well we as fathers do. If we don't help these young men and women out there, there is no future for us.
Your final word to fellow Christians, or even at the national level, to everybody out there watching us, what's your final word to them?
Jesus said to love the Lord thy God with all your strength and your might, and to love thy neighbor as thyself, and to do to others what you want them to do unto you. If you love your neighbor, you won't covet your neighbor's goods. If you love a friend, you won't hurt them. And I believe that the key here is, let us have the love of God in our heart. Let the love of God reign in our heart. And let's have love, and let's have compassion for one another and for others. Let's live a selfless life. Let us not insist of being right. And I will say something I say to the church all the time, that I have learned by experience that to be kind is better than being right.
The love revolution should go on.
We have to show love. If we are true Christians, he said, by this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if you have love one for another. And it doesn't matter what I say, how much faith I have, how much knowledge I possess, how much I pray or I can fast. If I don't have love and compassion for others, I'm nothing.
Papa, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it so much for your time. And have a very good evening and a good day.
Like all bad things in this country, we call bribes by fond names and we stop seeing them as bad. We call these things political vigilantism and we don't quite appreciate how bad. It is plain warlordism.
NCC will continue to condemn, name and shame all political parties who endorse, support, sponsor and or identify themselves with any of these groups until these groups are disbanded in word and in deed.
Political parties must be made compelled either by law to immediately disband these groups. Not only disband the groups, disarm the groups.
What are the measures that we are going to put in place? How are we going to purge our security agencies from this undesirable element and then ensure that we are able to maintain the kind of discipline and decency that our security agencies have stood for all this while?
I think Ghanaians should do ourselves a favor by ceasing to call it vigilante. If you go into the dictionary, this is definitely not vigilantism, and so we should do ourselves a favor, because by identifying the problem adequately, then you can find the adequate solution to the problem. And I think we need to empower police enough and all our security services, but legal security services.
And don't forget to join that campaign, Disband Party Militias now, PM Express Live on the JoyNews channel here on Multi TV. My guest in the studio, after listening to that very inspiring message from Archbishop Duncan-Williams, is Dr. Oduro. He's the Deputy Country Director of CDD, and I'm delighted that he made time to join me in the studio. He himself is an avowed, committed member of this whole push. CDD have done a great work in this area already, and we're all picking a lot of insight from what they've done on this particular subject. Also from the legal team of the main opposition NDC is Victor Adawudu. And Victor Adawudu is here because we all know what is happening with their own national chairman today. He's been granted bail, and we understand he's been charged with several counts of conspiracy, among others. We'll delve into that very briefly. It's all part of this campaign. There are many strands to this that seem to be spreading its tentacles very wide. And Dr. Oduro, I want to start with you from what we heard there from Archbishop Duncan-Williams. Personally, very glad to know that it appears that the work you guys started which became first reference, I think, as a commission. And then it snowballed into what we're seeing now. The media has joined it. Of course, the multimedia has joined it. Every voice that matters in society appeared to be adding their voice, their might, their strength and influence to the call to disband. I think there's an acknowledgement that where we are now, and I think Archbishop predicts that after 2020, if this is not fixed, we're going to have a challenge in this country that could tear us apart. He's not exaggerating, you see.
No, not at all. No, I think that the Archbishop fundamentally laid clearly the problem that we have in this country. So there is a short term, what is facing us currently, beginning with the Ayawaso West by-election issue. But the deep, toxic nature of our politics, the partisan nature of it, which every democracy has element of that, but the way ours is deepening, and the fact that we are not making attempt to reduce the winner-take-all and to promote inclusive politics, and to have a kind of a system and institutions that are impartial and non-partisan to sort of navigate the partisan discourse that multi-party democracy usually brings. It's sort of leading us into a situation that I think he tried to allude. But I think it's also important to recognize that this issue we're discussing today did not start with Ayawaso West.
Yep.
I mean, it has a history of what we call party militias. In fact, it started with internal political parties issues. And typical of Ghanaians, we talk of issues 1 day, 2 days, and then we all go to sleep. And I think that is what is sort of deepening, and the fact that the states and the institutions have not dealt with these issues is now beginning to face us in a manner that if we don't deal with it today, I think tomorrow will be dangerous.
You know what I say about Ayawaso? That it's really a blessing in disguise. Because, yeah, we've condemned it. It was heartbreaking. People were injured and maimed. But, and you hit the point, you hit the nail on the head. It's been happening elsewhere. But for it to happen in Ayawaso, one of the most elitist communities in the country, right in the heart of the capital, we could not avoid it anymore. So it's staring us in the face, and we realize, wow, is this as bad as it is? Yeah. I think that's what has shocked many people. I mean, for you guys who've been doing research and been confronting and monitoring Kodeo, I think you're very used to it. Yeah. But for the rest of the country, happening in this constituency, elitists and all, was astounding.
But I think that is, the Archbishop mentioned it. Yeah. He was referencing a situation where you might end up finding someone living in a kiosk, opposite of rich house, and because it's now hitting the elites, it's because the elites are now beginning to realize that, oh, wait a minute, this is coming close home. Yeah. So when it happened at Amansia East, Akwatia, or Talensi, Trepone, and Tiwa, and all of those things, we all kept quiet, right?
Because this is over there. It's okay, yeah.
But now it's now beginning to face the elites, and I think that's why we are beginning to see all of this. But I think it's important, for the elites, both the religious elites, the business elites, educated elites, to begin to engage that this is not a problem of the parties alone. We have sat down to allow our system to degenerate to a situation where the parties no longer find confidence when they are in opposition. Yeah. Right? And once they don't find confidence and trust in the institutions of democracy, they will find other means of protecting themselves. And so the challenge is that anytime any of these two parties get into power, we deepen and destroy the institutions of the state, and don't allow the institutions to work. And that is what we are beginning to face with Ayawaso and the implications we have.
Victor, it's good that you're here. You're the lawyer, but you also represent a man accused of fanning these flames. I know he's said today that he denies, I'm talking national chairman, but within the broader context, we'll come to the specifics of that case. Within the broader context of the campaign to disband party militias and make our politics generally peaceful and kick the violence out and make it less vindictive, as Archbishop said it. You listen to Archbishop,
yes,
and your reaction is what?
For me, I think it's on point. He's spoken. I salute him because it's not all the time you find men of God who would speak on point when it comes to political issues, issues that affect us, because there's a tendency you have to be branded. It's either you're an MPP or you're an
He actually said it, that you don't have, you can't be neutral.
You can't be neutral. So for him to be able to speak to it, I think that we need to commend him. And, you know, this issue, as you said, that I also might be a blessing in disguise. It has been with us. But how deep or how has it festered? It's what we are seeing. That this has been a problem. At first we thought it was all about internal politicking, then the mistrust and suspicion between ruling government and opposition. It has happened, it happens. MPP came in, it happened, NDC came in. So there's some kind of hatred, there's some kind of suspicion among our own people. What started within the party itself, like internal party, that there's factions within the party or fault lines has been drawn within the party. Now we have seen it.
It's taking a national character.
What has elevated it is that now people who had helped us, I don't want to use the word, it's so strong, the miscreants. It's too strong. Forgive me. Who had also helped the parties now want a stake in the affairs of the party. So we've been able to elevate it and put some within our national security apparatus. So you realize that that's the dimension it has taken.
You know something that shocked me today came from the commission, that they've been told from one of the witnesses that the national security now has a force of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And national security is supposed to have
not supposed to do that.
And that's astonishing. That it's crept up on us. Nobody knew until this commission that the national security has a force of 1,000 people.
And because
so now it serves as an incentive that if we are able to bring our party, we have provided security. The next leap for us is the national security or the security institution. So if you are not able to get them there, and they will hold you yourself hostage. This is the magnitude of the problem. We are not saying that if you work for your party and your party in government, you should be provided with opportunity where you can work. But where already it is predetermined that when we within the security committee of our party we come, we definitely must end. Then it now becomes like a state sponsor, something that you have a lot of people within the security architecture. I think that is the biggest problem we have. Two, the way we are going, I think every decent person in Ghana says that, listen, let's disband. I don't think it is only an issue of disbanding. We need to make sure that what is the alternative for these people who will now see that this is the job we have. This is what is coming, incentive. Now, if they are saying let's disband, what is the alternative for them? That's why the discussion, the discourse, for me, where the president said, let's sit down and judge, is a step in the right direction, that when we bring all the other institutions, we can go deep and find out what are the issues, because they also have concerns. They got into the politics, or let's protect the ballot so that when we win, we can also have a stake. That's paramount issue. We can also have a stake. So if you are saying we are disbanding, what role are they going to play? Two, with the security institutions, I've always said that, listen, they are professionals. It is we, the same politicians and people, who hide behind them, who masquerade, and we try to direct them. When they want to be professional,
He can.
I'm telling you, our security service, they know how to be professional. So you would see the same people, as Papa has said, they hide behind and they give counter instructions. So sometimes I even sympathize with some of the security people because they know what to do. They know what is right. But to take a decision, they will have to be consulted.
Yeah.
They have
the
to,
politicians seem to have an overreach.
Because at the end of the day, you may lose your job when you're not able to. And everybody also wants to protect his job. The families want to protect. So it is for us, as we sit down, to be frank and dispassionate and lay bare the issues. There's a problem confronting us. My biggest fear, as Archbishop has said, is that this is the same way Boko Haram started in Nigeria. Because it was those top echelons within the party, within the societies, who brought around themselves this people who provided security anywhere they are going. And you know, Nigeria, because of the kidnapping and the rest, so they had these people. But they didn't even have gun from them. But I can tell you that we have a lot of gun in the system.
Yeah, Ghana has a terrible problem.
Ghana has terrible. So we have started even with guns. Where Nigeria, the Boko Haram, they started and moved into religious fundamentalism, and that's where we are seeing it. So I think it is a good step that we looked at it as holistically
as possible.
As possible.
So, you wanted to make a point when I was referencing the revelation of the Commission today that the national security has a standing force of 1,000, and it sort of crept us on us. Nobody knew what was going.
Yeah,
the answer to
and I wanted to say that in fact it's good that this commission is working because you know for a very long time the national security has been shrouded in secrecy. You know, we don't understand that institution anymore called national security, and of course we have also known that the national security normally does a covert kind of operations, you know, intelligence gathering, not an operational. But what happened at Ayawaso suggested that they have moved beyond that covert operation. But I think it's fundamentally because of what Victor said about the promises that politicians make that protect us. If we win, we'll get you. And then once they come, they have to find what? Spaces for them. And the only place is the security institution that nobody knows. And they put it, that's why we have, I don't even know when it started. Yeah. Perhaps, you know, it's been going on gradually. And my own, you know, analysis that the two parties, the NDC and MPP, they are friends. You see, publicly, they know each other. They all study each other. And you know, if one comes and it's, okay, this is how the NDC did it, okay, we can scale it up. Then the NDC was, okay, these guys have also scaled it up. So when we come also scale it up. So it's good, and I agree with him that it's and I mentioned that to you in your program, on Friday. It's a prisoner's dilemma. They have to sit down together. It's a mistrust. And once the two have acknowledged that this is a problem, and indeed, when you speak to them, both parties privately, they acknowledge the danger that this poses to them internally. And therefore, the need, this was years past, you know, a couple of years, 3 years, that, and I can tell you, and that's what, you know, for me, the so-called, I know you're going to come to that, the alleged tape recording coming from the chairman surprised me, because the few occasions that I've encountered him, you know, the last one I recall at the post-election 2016 review stakeholder, he together with Bedzeden, together McMenu and others at Dan, sat you know, in the more open, agree that we need to deal with this problem. They acknowledge how this is a danger to them. So it sort of, you know, came as a surprise. I mean, I supposing that is his voice. I don't know. Yeah. That it came as a surprise to me that, you know, someone who has been canvassing the need to deal, you know, with this thing will be making some announcement in private. So I think you know, already they know that we need to deal with it. Yeah. And so this is a very opportunity. It's a good opportunity for them to seize it. Let's talk about that. I mean, you went before the CID today, almost the whole day. You spent a whole day there. Yeah. He's been charged with what exactly?
I think first of all, there's a conspiracy threat of harm, rioting, conspiracy to riot, then
assaulting a public officer or something
assaulting
like
a public officer. That was the last one. So those are the caution statement that was taken. They said they had a tape, so we listened to the tape.
It's 30 minutes or so long.
It's about 30 minutes that we listened to the tape. I've seen some snippets of other tapes within the social media. I hadn't really listened to all of them. But when I listened to it, I think that he listened to it and he said, you know, he need to assess it to be sure that that is what he said. Because maybe the occasion on which that speech was made, or he said that, should be an issue so that he will know exactly what was said. So he said he could not comment on what was put before him because it will come with issues. What was the source? Maybe you can compare that with, if there is even an original which was recorded on the occasion, if you get to know, then you could put that too. So I think his issue was that he could not comment on that. But when I listened to it, from my view, was that this was a chairman who was speaking to his party people who were down, demoralized, and was lifting up their distance and say that my thinking about election security has changed because of what I have seen. I think it was just at the heel after the Ayawaso. I listened to it critically. And the police and the institution, what they are saying is that some of the things that they found on the tape has security implications. So that is what they are looking at. And he said, look, for his 30 years in politics, nobody can trace anything cobweb in his body and say that this is what he's done. He's been a peaceful man. He's done a lot of things, and so that's where the tape. So that's where we've left it.
They went to search his home, I understand.
Oh no!
Or to retrieve his phone or something like that.
I think that they wanted to know maybe his phone, some of the conversation that you have. But you know, normally when you're going to the CID or the security people, they ask that you put your phone off. So we advise that, listen, you will not be able to use your phone. So there's no need taking your phone. So we explained to them that, look, we would voluntarily bring the phone for them to look at it, anything they want on it, any conversation, anything, they can have that. So we cooperated with them. We were delayed a little bit, but they gave us explanations that they had also scheduled some meetings and they were opening a West African, I think some programs. So that's why intermittently they come to us, then they will go until we finish around 6 o'clock.
So he's going back on Thursday?
Yeah, we'll go back on Thursday.
So that's it. I mean, and that's the point that Dr. Oduro made. This is some people who today, even at the CID headquarters when he was bailed, addressed the party and said he's committed to peace. In fact, he's written to the president in furtherance of that, asking for committing his party to meet wherever, whenever, at the president's convenience on this vigilante matter, and has laid out a number of things that he believes needs to be addressed. One of them we'll talk about shortly, and we've touched on briefly, but specifically is ridding the security services, the police, etc., of political elements is one of the conditions they put out there. We've been talking a lot about disbanding, but we haven't addressed that, and we all know our security services have been infiltrated. The politicians put in their party folks in there. The national security has come up recently. The police is same. How do you go about doing that? Because fundamentally, the opposition parties know that when they were in government, they did it. And then when they go out of government, they know that the opponents who come in also do it. So we've had several years of constantly putting in party people into security force. That's why when you're in opposition, they don't trust the police because they know the government had done it. So how do we fix that at the root cause of the mistrust in the police? We take a short break. When we return, we'll discuss that with my panelists here in the studio. Stay with us. So live on PM Express, Dr. Oduro with the CDD is my guest in the studio. We also have in the studio Victor Adawudu, member of the NDC legal team. Earlier, we watched an interview we did with Archbishop Duncan-Williams, who really set the tone for this discussion. Doc, let me bring you in on the part of the conversation that we haven't really touched on much, and which really many say is at the heart of the mistrust, that the security services, the police, national security, and to some extent even the military, we've had political elements, go in there, and they're in uniform. And the parties in opposition mistrust, because when they were in government, they did the same. When they go out of government, they know what they've done. They know the new incumbent party will do the same. And so then they mistrust it. And that cycle has continued. And so we've seen that mistrust. If we're going to fix vigilantism, or the militialism, as we now call it, isn't that one of the things that we should look at? The NDC actually makes that request in a letter to the president. Is that legitimate?
No, I think so. I think what the Iowa Soul case and the Short is revealing to us is that there's a deeper problem than just what we see on the street. Unfortunately, Ghana has not experienced a civil war, but it appears that we may have to do what we call the DDR. Yeah. Right, demobilization.
I heard that today at the commission.
Disintegration and then reintegration. Yeah. Because we have destroyed our security setup based on our actions and inactions. In post PNEC military regime, what we confronted ourselves in the democracy was civil military relations, how to bring the military and the police into civilian governance. But I think with this, we are beginning to look at post-conflict security sector reform, although Ghana has not experienced that major conflict.
But isn't that a bit extreme?
It's extreme, but that's what it is. Okay. Because in order to put these security agencies in a state where not only the political parties, but citizens can trust and rely on and go and report matters to them, will be for us to see a security establishment that we can trust and say that this is professional, this is impartial. It may have something to do with going back to look at the processes of recruiting some of those people who are already in. How do we get them out? But in a manner that it doesn't.
That's the questions come to. Practically, that is going to be impossible.
Because when Victor was speaking earlier on, he was talking about if you leave the police to be professional, they can
do the job.
Yes. But if you continue to put all of these people in there, some of them can rise.
Yeah.
To the top, and they can.
Some of them do actually rise to the top.
Maybe.
so that's why governments come and they remove the IGP quickly, and they put somebody that they think favors their cause.
Exactly. I think it's not as simple as that.
It's very complex.
This conversation that a national dialogue that we need to have as a country and find a better way of cleaning the security establishment.
But I think amongst all the things we need to do, that's going to be one of the most difficult things to do, because since 1992, this has been going on. So you can imagine, and now we're hearing about national security standing for 1,000 people. We don't know who these people are, who is controlling them, where they take their orders
from, the
source of power, funding.
Whether the parliament has control
over them. So 1,000 people, just national security. Not talk about police.
The police.
Even the military.
And even the other services, the prisons
services as well.
All of those.
I mean, so I think that is going to be, and Dr. Aining suggests today that the problem is so huge that we need to bring in the UN. You think he's exaggerating?
Well, I mean, he understands this terrain better than I. He has studied this long ago than some of us came into that. So I would defer, judgment to his expertise and knowledge about that. But I think we may need help.
Okay, definitely.
We may need some external help to deal with these issues, because I suspect that there are experiences elsewhere, how other countries have dealt with similar situations in Ghana. Because if and because of there's still mistrust high-level mistrust between the two parties.
True.
Even that conversation, that national dialogue, we need to have a mediator, local and international, to help assure them that, if NDC disband the Hawks, you are going to disband Delta Force. Yeah. If you disband Invisible Forces, you are going to
and disband. And we can all verify that you have.
You have. Because you can't trust the other. Okay, I've disbanded Invisible Force. Meanwhile, you have Delta Force somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, the other way around. So I think we need to have a very honest and objective conversation, which will require local actors, but also potentially external actors to help deal with this matter, because it's a security problem. And it's not only the security establishment, but what happens with some of these groups also, because our study pointed out that they have become a potential source of hiring, and people hire them, not only for party activities, but for other protecting lands, go and collect monies, debt for me, and all kinds of things that they render their services to the highest. But now I won't be surprised if we might have some of these militias who operate for both parties.
True.
Today is supporting NDC cause, tomorrow they switch. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. So I think it's a big issue that we need to deal with, and it's because also these guys have come to understand and know the politicians. So a lot of things they do are blackmailing. They try to threaten them and blackmail them and say, look, if you don't do this for me, I'm going to do ABC. And it's very worrying. It's very complex, very deep, and the solution is not that simple.
You agree with when he says that the PSA, these people now seem to have won over the politicians. They seem to be in control because they can blackmail, threaten, etc.
Exactly. Because they know the inside out of what they do. They know the kind of instructions they get from them. So let me give you a typical example, which is it's true. You will not believe that a sergeant in the police, because he got there through the politicians and rose to become a sergeant, when he's misbehaved, and his boss, who may be a deputy commissioner of police, wants to bring him before the disciplinary committee, he only runs to members of the police council and says, this man belongs to the other party.
Other side, yeah.
So he doesn't want our agenda to continue, so take him out. It's true, I won't mention names. These are things that you find. Not long ago, you could find within, I don't want to use the police. If not, I'll be too hard on the police. But
because you work with them, so you know what goes on.
You see that people who had joined. We had several armed robbery cases, police hijacking cars, and the rest. People who did that. They were people who joined the police service less than 20 years. So you see people 15 years, people who had joined the police, that they were just brought in. But not really that it was their desire and passion that I want to be a police officer. Anybody who had more than 20 years within the police, it means that it was his innate desire that I want to be a security officer.
Just as a wrap up, that question of getting rid the service of the party element, the NDC make that request of the president. How do you do it? What's your suggestion?
I think that they need to sit down, the number of people, look at it. I can even tell you that they even have their own cliques, small groups.
Yeah, there's an NDC clique.
Which is affiliated to the parties, the groups, the politicians here and there, which does not augur well for
how do you deal with such a thing? Now, it seems impossible to me.
No. It is possible. It is possible. That's why I said
because they have rights, by the way. They are now recruited. They work. They are in uniform. You can't. How would you? Because party affiliation is there a rule that says you can't be affiliated to a party?
I believe there are standards.
Yeah.
The standards. It is we, the politicians, who would want to lower the standards because you are being blackmailed in your constituency. Your people that you're not giving us jobs.
Yeah.
So what do we do to let these people be able to go in? So meritocracy is being sacrificed.
Okay.
Now, if you have the qualification and you meet the standard, right? Although you may be tainted politically coming in, you know why you are coming in there.
You've been around, just for this, you've been around your NDC folks. When they say publicly that they are committed to resolving this matter, is it genuine?
Very sincere and genuine.
Okay. Doc, very finally, from civil society's point of view, Henry Mensah Bonsu today at the commission was asking that the civil society should do more, right? What more can civil society do in 30 seconds?
No, I think we have to sustain the engagement. We need to talk about it together with the media. I think the problem in Ghana is when a subject matter comes up, we talk about it for a few days and then we all go to sleep. I don't think this is a matter that we can go to sleep until we find a solution.
I'm grateful. That's Dr. Franklin Oduro. He is the deputy at the CDD Ghana. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Also, Victor Adawudu. A big thank you to Archbishop Duncan-Williams, who set the tone for this conversation. This campaign is going to continue. You better join it or you step aside, because we're going after the politicians who created a problem for them to sit and, with the help of others, solve this problem. #disband party militias now. Enjoy your evening.